Good afternoon, students. Am I audible? Can you give me a feedback if I'm audible? We can start.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you. Fine. So we'll start. Uh, so if, today we'll be covering a bit introduction, but we'll be going through the course. What are the important topics we'll be going to cover? All those. So today is we can say introduction to components. So starting, can you anyone tell me whether you have been uh, taken a basic subject or taken a course on analog electronics in the first year or third semester, 1, 2, 3 semesters? Have you taken any subject of electronics? Any subject of electronics, like circuits or analog electronic devices, components, or anything? Have you taken any subject? Is there a subject like Introduction to Electronics Engineering? Have you taken it? Yes or no? Hello?
So basically, there
Yes.
was subject of electronic devices.
Okay, electronic devices was there. Okay. There was
Yes,
no
sir.
subject. 1 and 2 semesters, did you had a subject of Introduction to Electronics Engineering?
No, sir.
Okay, okay, fine. Okay, okay, then, fine. So in this class, we'll be discussing basics of uh, electronic devices, not devices. What are the devices you already know, right? We already know basics of devices like transistors, diodes, and all those things. So we'll be just touching just a brief overview of those things. Okay. So before that, I can give you an overview of what are the courses going to deal with, right? So okay, so basically, this course is basically starting from understanding some basic parameters required for circuit analysis. Like, what are the basic parameters like impedance, source impedance? So, impedance can be input impedance, output impedance. Input impedance is the output impedance is the. Okay, so what is input impedance? When we consider amplifier, we'll discuss there is some input impedance means some resistance to the input and resistance to the input signal where the amplifier is giving, and output impedance means like how much impedance the amplifier output is going to give the output signal. So this is one of the important thing which we'll discuss in the starting, especially the input impedance. So what is impedance? What should be the range of input impedance? Right? How much signal is lost, etc. And then we will go to basics of diodes, right? Building diode circuits. We already know how diodes works, right? When we discuss what is diode, how it works, and some circuits using diodes. What are the applications of diodes? Especially signal, we have sine wave. How to convert the sine wave into a triangular positive pulse of triangular pulse, etc., etc. So there are a lot of applications. Rectifiers. We can have a DC rectifiers, right? Positive pulse in the output we can get, negative pulse in the output we can get different wave shapes like clipper, like this clipping circuits output waveform we can get, and different types of clippers we can get. Sometimes we can have both clippers, positive and negative clipper, something like that. So these kind of different called wave shaping circuits. Wave shaping, there are different wave shapes you're getting output. So these circuits are called wave shaping circuits. Wave shaping circuits. Okay. So these are basically designed using diodes. So different diode circuits are the clippers, clampers, rectifiers, half-wave rectifier, full-wave rectifier, bridge rectifier, etc. These are the basic things. Okay, and there can be some general circuits also, and which you need to study to plot the waveform. What is the current versus voltage waveform, voltage versus input voltage versus output voltage waveform, etc. Okay, so this is the first part. After discussing basics, we'll go to diode circuits. Right? And all the internal structure of the diode you have already discussed. So we will not be dealing with all those internal. What is happening inside the diode? Positive bias, feedback, positive, forward bias, reverse bias. What is happening with the capacitance? What is this? We will not be dealing with this circuit. So we'll take the diode as a black box. Right? We'll take a diode as a black box. with the input voltage and output voltage, input signal and output signal. This inside we don't care. We'll take it as a simplified model. So what is the simplified model of the diode? The simplified model of a diode is it is acting as a unidirectional valve. What is a unidirectional valve? You know, there is a tank where a lot of water is filled, and it is connected to the some kind of output, right? So here we have a lot of water in the tank. So what is the difference? There will be pressure difference, right? Way high water content here, so the height at a height edge, at a height edge. So there is a pressure difference between water at the top, and water at the bottom. So what happened? The water will flow from the higher pressure region to lower pressure region based on the potential difference of the potential energy difference of the water. But now if I keep a diode, so what is the diode does? Now if I keep a diode here, so diode is, I'll just explain, diode is like a unidirectional valve. So this is the valve I am discussing. So this is the diode. So what is the diode doing here? Now this is acting as a unidirectional valve. So how it is work? What is working? The water will be coming and pushing the diode. So the diode will be forced to move in the anti-clockwise direction. Now it will be moving, opening the way to water to flow in the pipe. So water will be flowing then to the output circuit, right? So this is unidirectional valve. Now when we put the water in the opposite direction, for example, if we make the tank in the opposite direction, like this, what will happen? Like this, let's say I'll make water flow like this. Water is now green. Now if the water is coming opposite direction, will the diode open? No, diode will not be able to open in this direction, right? That is, it is considered as a unidirectional valve because it is stuck. It is stuck in the bottom because of the pressure of water. Even though there is a water pressure, it cannot open. It cannot allow the water to flow from left to right. Sorry, right to left, right? But it will definitely allow water to flow from higher pressure to left to right, but not in the right to left, right? Is it okay? So this kind of circuit, this kind of simplified representation of diode considered as a unidirectional valve is called as analogies. So in this in this in this course, in this subject, we'll take a lot of analogies. What is analogy? Analogy is understanding one field or one arena or one topic by comparing to a similar topic, right? So we are understanding the electronic devices like diode with the comparison with the valves like mechanical devices, pneumatic devices, hydraulic devices. So this is called analogies. So one of the advantages of analogies is like water flow we have seen, we have faced the pressure, we have felt the pressure also. But electronics, we have not felt the voltage, current. We cannot see it. We cannot feel it. We can see using only instruments. We can feel it using instruments. Maybe shock also. We can feel it. But so analogies are very important to understand the electronics and electrical field, etc. So we'll be using a lot of analogies. So this is the first analogy you need to understand, considering diode as a unidirectional valve. Unidirectional valve. So this equivalent representation, I can show this equivalent representation like, say, high voltage. The voltage tank can represent a high voltage, plus and minus, right? So if I consider the diode, positive forward bias diode, right, what will happen now? Because of the higher potential here, low potential here, it allows a current flow. It allows a current flow from the higher potential to the lower potential, right? So there is a current flow. This is called forward bias because this is plus, this is minus, right? Because there is a unidirectional valve which allows the current flow. Here it is electron flow, or you can say opposite direction. Electron flows in opposite direction, but still the current is flowing from the plus point to minus point because the diode allows the current flow in one direction, right? And the reverse direction, if I put the reverse, if I put this minus and this plus, this is minus and this is plus, this is minus, this is plus, what happens? Now the pressure is coming from this side. Now the current is trying to flow from this side because this is plus. So this is plus, current is trying to push from this side. So what happened? That time diode won't work out, done, we won't allow the current to flow in that direction. It acts as a open circuit, right? Right, this is open circuit. So this is called Diode is acting as an open circuit. It's a unidirectional valve, and it is actually open. It doesn't allow current to flow from the opposite direction, right to left. Okay. So uh, similarly, we have transistors. So that I'll just explain. So what is the analogy of transistor? So I don't know. You might not have studied transistor. Yeah, transistor basics. Yeah. So transistor, it is represented by three-terminal device with one base, collector, emitter. Okay. So here also, actually, what is happening? We are trying to control the current flow only. Current is trying to flow from collector to emitter, and we are trying to control this flow of current using the base junction, right? So there are three terminals. This is input, this is output, and there is a control terminal. This is the controlling terminal base. Okay. This is a basic analogy. So basic analogy, what is analogy of a transistor? The analogy of transistor is nothing but a pipe. Here now we have a diode as a valve. Now we have pipe. What is this analogy? Here there is an input. There is an input where water flow is coming from our tank. Water coming from tank. There is an output where water is getting output or settled or collected. Now there is a control terminal. Control terminal where we makes the adjustment how much water flow is required, right? So this is the control terminal in this analogy, the base which you have studied. Okay, so while maintaining or changing the voltage or current in the base, here in the BJT we change the voltage, sorry, current, or changing the current, we control the current across the collector and emitter terminals, right? So that is nothing but the water flow across the pipe. We are controlling using the control valve. That is the base here. So this is energy pipe. Okay. So if we draw the graph also, you can see if there is a graph like there's a current versus voltage, something like this. Now we have a tank also. Now I put some kind of controlling valve in this, right? This is a controlling valve in this tank. So there is some kind of water which is trying to flow from the tank to the bottom. So what I'll do, I try to control this we can say this is valve. Okay, this valve I can try to push clockwise or anti-clockwise direction. So what happens when I opens the valve, it tries to move in the left, right to left. So there will be water flow, more water flow. So I can plot this as I increases the voltage. This is control. This is the control voltage I'm giving to the pipe. Okay, so this is in the x-axis here. So as I go on increasing the voltage, I can see there is increase in the current. It's increase in the current, right? So this goes on increasing, and this is not in a linear way. Why this is not in a linear way? Who can tell me if this is not in a linear way? Why it doesn't happen in a linear way like this? It doesn't happen in a linear way. Yeah, because area, the pipe is actually a two-dimensional surface. Pipe is a two-dimensional surface. Okay, whose area is given by A equal to pi r square. So this is a non-linear. This is not pi r, it's pi r square. So you here, here, because of the r square, no, it is not a linear thing. If it was a linear, it might have got a linear output of the current. So I got a non-linear output variation of current, right, with respect to voltage. Okay, so this same way, at a particular point, even if I open the valve completely, the maximum water is already flowing. At that time, what happens? The water gets saturated. This is called saturation point. Okay, so this point where the current gets saturated, this is called saturation current, something. Okay, so that is the place where maximum water flow is happening to the pipe. We cannot extend to more. Okay, so there is always a point where the maximum capacity is reached. There always a point where minimum capacity is also there. Okay, so okay, so that's it. So everything in the electronic world we can compare with a analogy in the hydraulic world or mechanical world or pneumatic world. Okay, so it makes us much easier. All the transfer characteristics you might have already studied um, previously. If you understand through this analogies, it'll be much easier. Okay, so that's it. So we have compared the transistor as a pipe and diode as a valve. Okay, so I think Now I will discuss about this what we have prepared. So here we'll be discussing. First thing is another important thing is resistors. So what is resistor? Something which resists the flow of current, right? Flow of electricity. So resistors has at a value. It can vary. It can increase the impedance or increase the resistance, decrease the resistance, right? So resistance is basically some insulator like paper or some kind of material which tries to oppose the flow of current. Okay. So we know Ohm's law. At particular temperature, current is proportional to voltage. So that is also Ohm's law. And that constant of proportionality or variation of current with respect to voltage is equal to V by I equal to resistance. Okay, so this is Ohm's law, and you should know all those basic equations, all those basic equations which we have studied of the resistance, like voltage divider equation you might have studied. So this is a voltage V. I have two resistance, right? So this voltage is V1, this voltage is V2. Why there's a difference in voltage? Because there is a difference in resistance. This is R1, this is R2, right? So all this voltage divider equation you should refresh. V1 equal to total input voltage. This is input V in. So V in into, right, R1 divided by R1 plus R2, right? Similarly, we'll get V2. V in into R2 divided by R1 plus R2. Now, if if this is the case, what happens if I disconnect this R2? What will be the voltage V2? Yes, if I disconnect this R2, what will be the voltage V2? Who can tell me? Yes, if you are facing some problem, you just type in the chat, or you can just tell me, unmute and tell me. Yeah, these are basics. I'm just refreshing your basics. So I'm asking what is the voltage at this point if I disconnecting the R2. I'm disconnecting R2 completely. Yeah, let's see the chat. Okay, I only got one answer, any value. So this is not any value, right? Because this is specific voltage V and I'm applying V in, for example, 5 volt plus 5 volt. So if I disconnect R2, what happens? When you disconnect, there is no current flow. When it's no current flow, that means resistance is, we can say, very high value, or it's infinity because practically zero. So resistance has become, R2 is becoming nothing but infinity or very high value. So just represent this. Put the R2 equal to infinity in this infinity very high value, denominator very high value. R2 is negligible, cancel. So numerator and denominator cancels out. So what you'll get? Numerator cancels out denominator. So nothing but V2 will be equal to V in. Okay, these are simple things which you need to think very fast. So whatever voltage I measure when I disconnect one resistor, this point is full voltage, 5 volt or V in is completely coming across this point. Okay. Okay, so now the same thing, if I have this V input voltage, say plus 5 volt. Now if I disconnect this voltage, what will be this is R2 is remaining here, R1 I am disconnecting. Now what is the voltage at this point? Here you can see that there is no current flow, there's no voltage connection here, and here I have given an impedance, infinite impedance. Here the value is infinity, right? R1 is infinity, that means very high value. That means there is no current flow from here to here. It's practically disconnected. So this V output is 0 volt, right? How, in equation wise, how can you see? If V2 equal to V input into R2 divided by R1 plus R2. Here we can see what is R1 is infinity. That means here in this equation we can see R1 denominator is infinity. So this is negligible. So V in by infinity nothing but 0. So V is 0. Okay. So equation level also we can understand, as well as practically also we can understand this is infinity. Now if we make short circuit, this is V input. Now this is a resistance R1, and now what is the voltage here? Now this is R1, this is R2. Now what is the voltage here? V output here. It's nothing but V2. I'm asking about V2. This was V2 initially. This was V1. Yeah? Who can tell me? What is the V2? You can unmute and tell me.
So V minus V1.
No, it's not. Answer is not V in minus V1. You can see. You can see whenever you're talking about voltage, you should remember two things. V output voltage we are measuring with respect to what? You always measure voltage with respect to ground, right? So here we can see that this is already grounded. This is already directly short circuited to the ground. So V output is nothing but zero voltage. Even seeing also you can assume. Now let's put equation. What is the equation of V2? V input into what? V input into R2 divided by R1 plus R2, right? Now what is the value of R2 here? R2 is 0 here. R2 is 0. So denominator is also 0. So Vn into 0 equals 0 volt. Okay. So the main point I'm telling you is we should know it algebraically also as well as feelingly also. We should feel that okay, this is grounded. This voltage is 0. And why this is not equal to V1? Because there's a resistance where all the voltage drop is coming across this resistance. So what is V1 here? V1 is nothing but full voltage V in, because here V1 is 0 because connected to ground. V in is getting the whole according to Kirchhoff law. V in equal to V1, the whole input voltage. If we got equation, V1 equal to V input into R1 divided by R1 plus R2 is 0. So R2 is 0. So R1 cancel out. R1 cancel out. So we had V in. So all V in is going to come across the R1. Okay. So I'm telling you this kind of things you have to be familiar with, not only algebraically but feeling intuitive way. Another important thing is the resistance divider current. We have a current I and we have two resistances. We have one resistance here and the resistance here. This is R1, this is R2. So how the current divides? So equals this I1, this is I2, right? So this is simple. So if I disconnect one of the resistances, we know this whole current is going to pass through this, right? And if I open circuits, if I short circuits one of the resistance, what happens? Short circuits, the whole current will going to pass through this time through the bottom R2 because it is 0. So this feelingly you have to understand, and you have to understand based on equations also. So based on equations, we know I1 equal to total current into opposite resistance, right? R2 will come here first. R2 divided by R1 plus R2, right? Similarly, I2 equal to total current into opposite resistance R1 divided plus R1. These are things are very important before understanding the things. First, you need a feeling of what is happening. Just seeing the circuit, you should know this is so and so. Initially, you can use these equations. This equation you can use it, but as you practice a lot of things, you should have this feeling intuitive. So ideally, what we want in electronics engineer is a kind of intuitive feeling. Okay, this voltage is this, troubleshooting will be easy, design will be also easy. Then you can arrange the things for perfection, but initially you need to have feel of the things. Like you should consider transistor, we are consider as a black box. So transistor in this example we are consider black box, right? With three terminals. So this is thing inside what is happening is even electronics engineer industry, they also don't think about the device physics much. They don't think what is happening inside the depletion region, p-n type doping and all those. This the transistor as a black box. So this is the control terminal. What is the voltage here? Based on this voltage, there is some current here. So what is the current here, and what is the beta? What is the power, etc., etc. So this is things are a bit faster in an intuitive way rather than thinking about the physics, thinking about what are the equations, all those things. Okay. So that's about the Okay, that is about the transistors and resistance. We are talking about resistance. So different resistance equation which you should know. Then we should know color coding of resistance. This is for practical, not for theory. So you should know there are three. Each resistance there is a band of color codes. First band there is color, different colors, red here, violet and green. And next we have tolerance. What is the tolerance? Tolerance means how much error I can expect from this color code, right? If there are more error means here it will be very high tolerance, maybe plus 4 minus 5%. That means if I say a resistance has 100 ohm, if there is 5% tolerance means it can vary from 105 ohm to 95 ohm, right? 100 plus or minus 5. That is the tolerance. Okay, you should know this basic thing. So A, B, C, and D are color codes. So this is easier for the engineer, the designer to see the color code rather than if I print something on the register is there are high chances that it may get corroded, it can may get diluted or something. So better combination or color coding is best way of understanding the color. So what are these colors stands for? This color stands for black, brown, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, gray, white. There is a some kind of mnemonic to understand this code. That is BB Roy. Great Britain has a very good vibe. Okay, you can have a lot of mnemonics or something. So you can see the different colors in this example. Okay, these are some of example different types of accuracy. You can see here much more colors than the initial thing. Here there are less colors. We can see in this resistance we have only 4 colors. Sometimes, yeah, 4 colors only here. So these are this not high precision resistors, but there are high precision resistors where we need much stronger understanding of the value. For example, space applications, or even next to space application is automobile industry, where we need more precisions, more accuracy, etc. But space applications and defense applications need the more number of color codes so that we can know to more precisely, and their tolerance will be 0.1 percentage as given in the third resistance. Is more accurate. We know how much voltage current flowing through that, because we can even small voltage change can make your aircraft or make your spacecraft change its path and all those things. Okay, so it's more accurate, high precision, more costly, but it'll be high precision. Although for practical purposes or hobbyist or household projects or even industrial projects, we don't need that much accuracy. Now units you already know: kilo, mega, milli, micro, nano, and all those things. This just the slide case. Now capacitors stores electrical energy. We know it's like a tank. A tank can store water. So analogy is the capacitor is like it can store the electric charge. So there are two dielectric plates, conducting plates surrounded separated by a insulator, right? So it can be air, paper, mica, anything. Or polymer capacitors or the plastics. A lot of things can be act as the insulator. So you should know the basics of the capacitance. Yeah, basics. What are the basics of capacitor? You already know. And this I think I'm discussing this thing so that it may be useful in the future. So what are the capacitance? Basic equation we already know. Capacitance equation is equal to epsilon zero A by D, right? What is A? A is the plate area, right? This is plate area A. Plate area. This is plate area. What is the D? D is the distance between the plates. Epsilon zero is the what is the epsilon zero? Epsilon zero. Coefficient of, you might have studied in your +2, and I don't know whether you're refreshing. Please refresh those concepts. So the only thing is, if distance increases, what happens to the capacitance? Yeah, capacitance decreases, right? As the area of the plate increases, capacitance also increases. So all those things. And another important equation of capacitance is, what is the impedance of the capacitor? Xc. Xc is equal to 1 by C omega. So what is this meaning? This you might have already learned somewhere. So C omega, that is the only thing here is the frequency. Capacitance impedance. This is impedance. Capacity impedance offered by the capacitance is inversely proportional to the frequency omega. So what is omega? 1 by C 2 pi into frequency. So you can see the frequency increases. Here the frequency increases, the impedance will be decreasing. So what is the meaning of that? If I give a high frequency input signal or a AC alternating current to a capacitor, it have very less impedance. That means it acts as a signal or alternating current. It allows the current flow easily. Okay, because it's as the frequency increases, capacity impedance decreases. Okay, then we should know this impedance also will um, affect the phase shift also, which you already studied in AC circuits. Phase shift, there is kind of phase shift capacitance you will give it to the voltage, which will make it lagging voltage and it make it current leading. Okay, so there's another equation relating to that thing. I don't remember that equation. Yeah, capacitance. Hmm. Yeah, one way of understanding the capacitance is, initially the charges, initially voltage immediately act as a plate of the capacitor. So there is already a current one plate, negative charge is accumulated with another plate. There is always a current is already passed because of the charge flow has already happened. Although current has already passed, but voltage is still not passed, it is still across the plates of the capacitor. So it allows the current flow fast, so there is no phase lag, so there is no lag to the current. So it's lead, it makes currents lead, right? It makes the current lead the phase in input phase, and voltage will give a lag. Okay, so another important thing and this thing is inductor. So what is inductor? So inductor is the coil of wire, right? So what is the um, equation of inductor impedance? Inductor impedance in C LC, I think, sorry, L omega, right? So L omega. So L omega means L into inductance is 2 pi into frequency. So here we can compare these equations, that if frequency increases, this impedance is going to increase. So that means you can see that as the frequency is going on increasing, your inductor is going to give high resistance or impedance to the signal, right? And reverse, if the frequency is going to decrease, impedance is going to decrease. So this, if the your signal is like having no frequency, let me say a DC signal, the DC signal, your inductor is going to give zero, XL is going to zero. Why? Because frequency is going to be zero here. So it easily allows the passage of DC signal, but AC signal or variation or the alternating signals will give a very high impedance proportion to this frequency. So XL is directly proportional to the omega or frequency. So these things all you already studied, but you should think in a different way, like quite fast, so that we can appreciate what kind of capacitors or inductor is used in a filter, right? If you have some signal, so if you have some signal like this, there's a lot of noises are happening. So if I pass through a capacitor, what happens? So I should pass the only the low frequency part, low frequency. So what should I do? So I can do something like need to have the low frequency part. So what I'll do something like this. Okay. So what is the idea? So the output will be the high frequency part. The capacitance will offer low impedance. So the high frequency part will be short circuited through the capacitance, because capacitance offer XC is very low as a frequency, high frequency components, XC is very low, frequency increases. So my output will be something signal like this. In the resistance, I'll get a signal something like this, something like this. So all this high frequency will be short circuited here. So I'll get a, so this is called a high low pass filter, low pass filter. So what is the idea? Because of the high frequency input, high frequency parts in the input, I can use a simple capacitor to short circuit. So this just shorted to the ground, right? Okay, so the output is only low frequency part. This is what I call the signal. This is my signal. Okay, all the high frequency is usually the noise. So if I eliminate those things, I'll get a low frequency signal. This is from the sensor, your voice, your video, audio. Okay, so this is your filter. So this is called low pass filter. It short circuit the high frequency, and likewise we have high pass filter, high frequency. It allows high frequency but doesn't allow low frequency. right? So we will discuss all those things. Okay, then so this is capacitor. Then polarity of capacitor is also there. Some capacitors have positive and negative polarity, especially cylindrical capacitors. So you can read about them. So capacitors can smooth out a signal. That is called the filter. It's called, you can use as a high pass filter, eliminates ripples or spikes in DC voltage that we have seen. Not only DC, in AC voltage have different frequency components. If we design properly, we can select what frequency I have to filter out, what frequency I have to eliminate or amplify, whatever. Although it cannot do amplification, but filtering, band pass filter, low pass filter, high pass filter. This is based on the frequency components which you want to get out of it. Okay. Okay. Now we have the diodes, which we already discussed. Any doubts? Anyone having any doubts? You can ask any doubts if you have. Okay. So diode we already discussed. It is a unidirectional valve. It has low resistance in the forward bias state and infinite resistance in the reverse bias state. So this we already have learned this forward and reverse bias state. Okay, so one advantage of the diode is it doesn't allow the current flow in the reverse direction. So what is the advantage? The advantage is, yeah, sometimes you don't want to turn the motor in opposite direction. You don't want the circuit to have a negative current because there can be problems. So it will counter all those problems. Now this special type of diodes called LEDs. This also we'll discuss when the diode is, yeah, I think we have studied about LEDs. What happens, how the light is coming. So one question I want to ask you, how we decide the light, whether it is red light should come from, green light should come, or blue light should come from the LED. How we decide that? How we design that? Suppose I need to design a green color LED. So I just need only green wavelength coming from the LED. So what is the thing which I need to change, or what are the parameters which I need to think? Now these are the variable resistances called potentiometers. That means you can vary the resistance. There are 3 points here. You can see there is 3 points. One is variable point, one is input, and one output. So we can vary the variable point and we can get different voltages from the resistance. So this is called potentiometer. We call pots or variable resistance. Okay, so this is how it works. So if I want to discuss, so basically you have 3 ports, 3 points, terminals, and we have variable terminals which you can turn the knob. While turning the knob, we will get different resistance across the terminal. So if I apply a voltage across the last two terminals, V plus across first terminal and V minus or ground across last terminal, as I go on vary the wiper, I can get different voltages across my middle terminal, right? So this is called variable voltage using variable resistance. So now transistor we already seen. We have, so already you know that NPN and PNP transistors. Okay, using a switching, it's like pipe. We can control the flow of current through it. So how it is done? We are varying the depletion region that we already studied. Varying the depletion region, we have different currents can pass through from emitter to collector, varying the base junction, etc. So BJT, this is the image of the BJT. We have the device physics level. This also here it is not that important. Even if you don't know anything of device physics, still you can be a very good, designer, electronic circuit designer. At least in one technology node level. So at least what is the design level? I told you is a black box thing. You need to understand the overall working, and you need to design accordingly. So all those students who are thinking, oh, this is going to continue from where you left now, this entirely different way of analyzing, thinking, and designing. So although if you know the device physics, will be much easier, but it is not a prerequisite for this, but it'll be good if you know all the basics. So FET is another kind of transistor which works on input as voltage. BJT works on the current control device. For input is current. Current is used to control the major current flow. This is IC equal to beta times IB. Here it is voltage. We have terminals like base, collector, emitter. We have gate, drain, source. So transistor working, we already discussed. It is like a pipe. So one terminal is for control, other two terminals allow the current flow. There are two types of PNP and NPN. So we have discussed already. BJT is the current control devices. FET is voltage control devices, right? One is a MOSFET. BJT we have NPN and PNP based on the doping level. If we have N-type material over which P-type is doped, we have NPN, and reverse we have PNP. These are the schematic symbols. Here you can refer to it. Now IC. What is IC? IC is nothing but a we can say integration. It's called integrated circuit. So it is actually integration of lot of transistors, small transistors. We have billions of transistors in present day ICs. You'll be using laptop, smartphone, and they'll be using Snapdragon, Qualcomm, Intel, AMD, etc. These companies, they are working on technology node. We can say 5 nanometer, 7 nanometer. That means the distance between the source and drain, or the collector emitter of the transistor, is so less. It's like 7 nanometers. So you can imagine how many transistor can come within 1 square centimeter. So that is the technology integrated circuit, IC. Okay, so it is the controller brain of the electronic circuit, because it can do a lot of logical operations. It can have analysis, can analyzing, can have multiplication, division, all the mathematical operations, all the memory, all the digital signal processing, all the processing can be done by these today's ICs. Can be called as processors, microcontrollers, microprocessors, digital signal processors, DSP processors, RAM, memory, like a lot of options. We have all this latest artificial intelligence, and all the intelligences given by the processing ability of the ICs. And we have IC coming with low cost. So that means we can use a process everywhere, even in your devices, in your, in your clothing, in your watches, fans, lights, fridges, in your automobiles. So this is the cost is reducing. Things are getting smaller and smaller. So that means we can have process everywhere. Okay, so have billions of transistors. So that is a modern artificial intelligence, basis of modern artificial intelligence and communication also, and electronics also. All the electronics are going to developing within every device or every gadget because of this rapid integration. So basically, we are taking example of IC. Here, the example of IC we're taking is a motor control. How a simple motor control application can be done using an IC. Get a lot of application. I'm taking only single simple application, like electrical domain applications, right? So it's simple. This is the IC. This is another op amp. It's also an IC. It's called an operational amplifier, which we'll discuss in this course, how it works, basics of its operations. It's called operational amplifier because it can do a lot of operations like addition, subtraction, logarithmic, exponential, etc., etc. So we will see all those things. Within this op amp, which is an IC, a lot of transistors are there. So that is the main thing. IC is an integration, which is consists a lot of transistors and resistance or capacitance. Okay, so we will discuss more of this. Now this is the IC which can control the motor. So we can see there are 4 switches. At a time S1 and S4 is on, we can see that the current will passing from left to right. The motor is turning in the clockwise direction, right? So when S1 and S4 is off and S3 and S2 are off, then the current will be going from right to left. So the motor will be turning in the anti-clockwise direction. So likewise switching, by this switching, I can control the direction of motor. So this is the basics of the robots, automation, all these automated cars also, even electrical cars also. This thing, direction of motor can be changed using the current direction. Okay, so basically these switches means transistors, right? We should understand transistors or electronic devices are switches, right? Which we can program how it should work. Okay, so we can, by the switching, they can control the current direction, voltage values, speed, right? All those things. So this is a simple application called H-bridge, which is used in robotics, like line follower, all those things which students make for project. So this is how it works. You can see how the direction, the red shows the current flow. So there are two options of voltage output across the motor based on switching. 1 and 4 is on, the voltage is coming from left to right or current. And 3 and 2 is on, the voltage is across from right to left or current flow is from left, right to left. So this helps in controlling the motor. So we have different ICs for controlling the voltage, like IC regulators, and we have a lot of ICs for controlling motor applications, and even your smartphones, which you are using, your laptops are using some kind of ICs. Now ICs are mounted on PCBs. It's called printed circuit boards, right? So this printed circuit board are made by kind of, you can say, there are different ways of making PCBs. But once you make your IC, you need a lot of resistances, capacitances, and our voltage supplies. We fix everything onto a board, which is called PCB. So there's a connection at the back of the board. You can see the connections, and this can be done by machining, automation also, and manually also. Usually, people hobbies used to do manually. They put this board, which is available around some rupees like 30 or 40. Then they put this in a liquid. Then they draw the metal lines and all those things. There's a lot of chemical process. PCB manufacture is called. It's called. So, so this is all of for today. I think it's already time. So today it was just like introduction, just how we should see the electronics in an intuitive way, kind of feeling how the device works. Diode as a unidirectional valve, transistor as a pipe which can control the flow of current, capacitor as a tank, inductor also as a magnetic, no, carrier of magnetic field, energy in terms of a magnetic field. Capacitor carries energy as electric field. So all those things. So I think we can stop it here. And also, so tomorrow we'll also have the timing will be same. Okay. So any comments or any doubts or anything you want to ask, you can ask right now. If there is no doubts. So I'll also give some assignments also. Sometimes it may be you have to refer some books or you have to do some problems, or sometimes you have to see some video, something related to electronics. So that's it. So you can put your roll number.